was born Roscoe Arbuckle on March 24, 1887. He was one of 9 children to Mother Mary E. Gordon and William Goodrich Arbuckle in Smith Center, Kansas. Arbuckle always loved to perform and was very talented while he was young. His relationship with his father became strained when his mother passed. Possibly due to grief, he seemed to take out his frustrations on Roscoe. Not long after, his father stopped supporting Roscoe, which forced him to get a job to support himself. But despite all of that, he continued performing in small local projects and was known for singing during work and loved to entertain anyone that was willing to watch him. After performing in a few theater productions, he eventually started a film career with Salig Polyscope Entertainment Company. It was not long after that he became one of the most famous and highest paid film stars of the time. Known mostly for his comedic roles in silent films, the public loved him, and he eventually was given the name Fatty Arbuckle, in which he wasn't too fond of. But his weight played a part in what made him funny and different from other actors in comedy. It became the name that made him a star. At the time, an even bigger star than Charlie Chaplin. His fame allowed him to intertwine with Hollywood's most elite circles of actors and directors. But his demanding schedule started becoming a lot for him, so he decided to take a small break. On September 5th, 1921, Roscoe and 2 of his friends, Fred Fishback and Lowell Sherman, decided to book a large hotel suite to have a weekend of fun and partying. There were many different high-profile people within the entertainment that attended the party, along with several beautiful women, including 26-year-old Virginia Rappy, who was invited by Freddie Fishback when he went to purchase more liquor when the party ran low and came across her, along with 3 of her friends, Zay Prevon, Alice Blake, and Maud Balbina Delmont. It was stated by Delmont that Virginia caught the eye of Arbuckle, and he made many advances towards her, in which she turned down. But after a while, Arbuckle wouldn't take no for an answer, and pulled Virginia into one of the bedrooms. Now, there are many different theories to what happened while the 2 were in the room alone, but sometime after, Virginia Rappy was found in the bedroom very ill, and it was stated that after discovering her in the room, her friends tried to assist her as best as they could. But Arbuckle, on the other hand, was said to have left the party right after leaving the bedroom where Virginia laid ill, and went straight to Napa Valley. Virginia was eventually taken home, and then to the hospital. When she was examined by the doctors, they suggested the cause of illness was due to a condition that she had that was said to be chronic cystitis that can be irritated with the intake of alcohol. But while at the hospital, Maud, that attended the event with Virginia, made the claim that Virginia had been sexually assaulted by Arbuckle. Virginia passed away after 2 days, and even though she was examined for sexual assault, she had no signs of this. But due to the passing of Virginia, the police came to the conclusion that the claims that were made were true, and that due to Roscoe's size, during the act, his weight caused her bladder to rupture. Although Roscoe denied the claims against him, it quickly hit the media and turned into a huge Hollywood scandal. The newspapers painted Roscoe as a disgusting leech that overpowered the young woman with his weight in order to assault her, and this started to negatively affect Roscoe's career, especially being that at the time he was still legally married but separated. Roscoe was eventually arrested and charged with manslaughter. On September 17, 1921, hate grew within the public for Roscoe. Arbuckle was behind bars for several weeks before the trial, and finally the trial took place. Paramount, which at the time had become Arbuckle's film home, hired high-profile entertainment attorney Frank Dominguez to represent Arbuckle. and District Attorney Matthew Brady was assigned on the prosecution side. The star witness for the prosecution was none other than Maud Delmont, who made the original claims that Arbuckle assaulted Virginia. But the problem with Maud was that she provided too much information and changed her story several times. And there were other witnesses that spoke against her claims, stating that when Arbuckle went into his bedroom, Delmont was already in another room with Lowell Sherman, so she couldn't have seen Arbuckle enter the room with anyone. But everything changed when Delmont's criminal record was discovered. The prosecution decided that it would be better for the case to no longer include her in the testimonies. So they decided to have the other two women that were friends of Virginia, Black and Prevon, to testify instead. But when time came for them to testify in court, the two women were nowhere to be found. But the trial still continued as the prosecution painted Arbuckle as a savage monster that forced itself on an innocent young woman and ended up taking her life. They also tried to push the idea that afterwards he had no care to help her and fled to Napa, while others tried to help her at the party. It was said that the prosecution team gave an overdramatic argument due to them knowing that reporters would be present, and it seemed to work. The reports made to the public caused public outrage, and mobs of people protest outside the courtroom against Arbuckle. But finally, when Arbuckle was put on the stand, he told a different story. He stated that he entered the room to change, preparing to leave, when he noticed Virginia in the room, appearing very ill. He assumed that she had had too much to drink, and then after placing her on the bed, realized that she was more ill than he had imagined. He stated that he had called other party attendants, including her friends, to the room to assist her further, and also contacted the hotel front desk for further assistance. After Arbuckle left the stand, the doctors that examined Virginia were called, due to the fact that they did have information that would have exonerated Arbuckle right then. It was said that Virginia herself told the doctors that Arbuckle had never touched her, but oddly, the judge refused the testimonies of the doctors, claiming that it was considered hearsay. After 41 hours of the jury deliberating, it was declared a mistrial, 10-2. Afterwards, a retrial was requested and granted on January 11, 1922, which ended in another mistrial, again 10-2. But on March 13th, there was a third and final trial. During the third trial, Arbuckle's defense, for the first time, brought Virginia, whom was the victim, into question. They elaborated on the fact that she was known for being a studio prostitute, despite the image that she tried to portray, and also caused a studio to shut down for a small amount of time after spreading a venereal disease to several men in the studio. But the final tactic used by Arbuckle's attorneys was a shocking one. They obtained and presented the bladder of the victim, stating that the bladder was heavily diseased due to the actions of what was considered at the time a loose woman. This turned to be successful for Arbuckle because he was acquitted afterwards, and the jury made a statement to the public of his innocence. But the damage was done. The papers had already dubbed him a monster, and the public was not very forgiving. Fatty Arbuckle went bankrupt and had to seek assistance from his friends to pay for his legal fees. It would be another 10 years before he was taken off the blacklist at Paramount and was offered a new contract. But sadly, Fatty Arbuckle passed away at the age of 46 before he was to sign his contract for a 2-film deal.